Well, hi. I thought I would go live again because why not? Because it doesn't cost anything, because I can do it. Let's adjust this thing. That looks better. Okay. So I'm sitting at home in my, I don't know, dining room, living room, kitchen, whatever the hell you want to call this thing. And I'm working on my latest book, which I tentatively titled The Revolution Will Be Televised, but my better title is TV Sucks. I've written two other books before, both of which got published. This one I'm going to publish on Amazon because I don't want to deal with editors or publishing companies because they corrupt the stuff that I've done. So now I'm going to self-publish and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I was on this chapter about taking control of the media and taking control of video and taking control of television and doing it for yourself. And I got an email from one of my long time ago students, a woman named Julia Caesar, who I had trained to be a VJ when we set up Channel One in London, and we're talking about literally 20 years ago. Channel One was one of the first VJ-driven networks that we did in the world. The first were in Scandinavia, and then we did New York One, and then Sir David English, who was running Associated Newspapers in London, saw what we did with New York One and said, can you do this in London? So we went to London and we set up a VJ-driven local news channel in London called Channel One, which went broke for other reasons. But it was a fantastic first experiment with VJs and video journalists and certainly proved the model. At any rate, one of the young journalists that we worked with was a young woman named Julia Caesar. Yeah, I know there's a lot of jokes we made about her name, but she was very bright and very aggressive and very young to do this, and we taught her how to shoot and cut her own stuff, and she got into it right away and did quite well with it, and then went on to a fantastic career in television, ultimately working for the BBC for many years as a correspondent, and then working for CNBC, and the last job she had was she was ABC News Good Morning America correspondent in London. So she had proficient and understands the television business, the conventional television business, extremely well. Anyway, she emailed me yesterday and she told me that she was launching her own channel, which I think is a fantastic thing. I mean, it's not a broadcast channel, it's an online channel, network, whatever you want to call it, called, I have it here, Channel 66. And you should take a look at this thing. If you look at my stuff on the VJ.com, there it is, channel66.tv. She just started it, and it has enormous potential. So in a video that she puts in the thing, and also in a conversation that I had with her, and what I've written and I'm blogging about it today, was that the reason she did it was that she didn't see stuff on conventional television, in the news business. She didn't see stuff on conventional television, conventional news, that she was interested in. And I don't think that's unusual. I think many people feel that the news business doesn't really cover the stuff that they're interested in. So I blogged about it today, and I put a link to it, and you should take a look at it. What made that even more interesting was that this afternoon, one of my students from Columbia Journalism School, the class just graduated, named Joyanne Jeffries, and she's a young, I mean, she really, where Julia Caesar was 20 years ago. She just graduated from Columbia Journalism School, and she has also launched her own online channel or network or whatever it is, and it's called Tea with Joy, and you can see this on YouTube. I put the link up. We just shot a video with her downstairs in the studios about an hour ago, and having done that, I thought, you know, it was something that I should share with you, and especially since I'm writing, it completely started to change the whole chapter of the book that I'm working on here, because I begin to see this explosion of people not just making pieces for, you know, YouTube or putting them on Facebook or doing stuff like that, but actually creating entire networks. Julia Caesar told me that the motivation for her doing this was that, you know, I mean, she must be in her 40s now, and she doesn't see people like her and the things she's interested in reflected on television news. She doesn't see those kind of news stories covered, and so she launched her channel to do that. And Joyanne Jeffries, who's probably all of 23 or 24 years old, she's a young African-American woman, and she said she doesn't see her community reflected, and she doesn't see program that reflects the stuff that she's interested in doing. And the fact is that 10 years ago, if we said, well, you know, you don't like what's on TV, go launch your own network, that would have been considered, I mean, insane. And unless you had $10 million or $100 million to mess around with, there was no way you could do that. But quite frankly, the technology now allows pretty much anyone to broadcast any kind of content they want, and more significantly, to wrap it in the context of a channel being an abstraction, because of course it's all non-linear now and it's on demand, and you just make as much stuff as you can when you want to. But the fact is that it costs so little to do that. This is an enormously liberating event. This made me start to think about what we see on television news per se, conventional television news, is such a minuscule part of the actual needs and desires of people to publish and tell stories around the world. Many years ago, I got a job teaching at NYU. I got thrown out later, but I did get a job teaching there for a while at least. And the title of the course was Television and the Information Explosion. Well, this is a bullshit name, because television is not information explosion. Television is a contraction of information. The last time I webcasting, but it's no secret, there are 6 billion smartphones in circulation of the world. Each of them, like this one, has the capacity to actually share stories and share video and shoot video and edit video and uplink it and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, if you think about, I will say not 6 billion people, but even a small fraction of that have things that they feel it's important to them, that they want to talk about. But how much of that mass of information that people want to talk about actually gets on television news or online or anywhere else? It's a tiny, tiny fraction. If you think that, you know, even with 24-hour news, I ran some numbers just while I was writing the book, and it was fascinating to me. In an abstract sense, 0.00002%, 9 zeros followed by a 2, that's the amount of news that television can cover based upon the potential amount of news and information that's actually going on around the world. So people who get their news and information from television are not getting the world. They're getting a tiny, tiny, tiny truncated part of it. And let's face it, most of the stories that go on television news are crap anyway. Nobody's really interested in most of them. They don't have any bearing on anybody. But these industries, these media companies, set kind of a national agenda for us. They lay down what is trending, what's important, what we think is important, because they are the gatekeepers. And the reason they're the gatekeepers is the technology of television until yesterday was such that the only people who could afford to be broadcasters was the people who had, you know, $1 billion to put into this thing. How people like NBC or ABC or CBS ever got licenses for broadcast for free astonishes me, but they did. And they turned them into machines that made money, which is fine. There's no crime in making money. But the other thing they did was they turned them into machines that became this narrow, narrow passageway that only a certain number of stories could pass through. And as a result, the only thing people saw of the world was the stuff that networks decided to put on the air. And who the hell elected these people? Who chose Matt Lauer to set the national agenda for what we would talk about? I didn't vote for him. I couldn't care less. I have no relationship to the man whatsoever, besides the fact he makes $30 million for sitting and reading what somebody else wrote him, but that's another discussion. But the point is that placing the national agenda, placing our topics of discussion, placing what we inform each other about in the hands of a couple of corporations is culturally suicidal. It's an insane thing to do. And of course, the technology mandated or restricted access to be able to tell stories, but that is no longer the case. Today, because of this miracle of technology, anyone can start a network, anyone can start a channel, anyone can put on the air, anything that they think is important. And that's an enormous, it's a global phenomenon. Things that I think are important, you may think are crap. Things that you think are important, maybe there's 10,000 or 100,000 other people who would agree with you, but now you get to put your information into the matrix. So that's the nature of the technological revolution that we're facing. And that's why I found this so interesting, that this potential actually exists. Now, somebody just wrote, can you make a living from your own channel? I think you can. Of course, we're only at day one of this technology, but I think that the fact is that the cost of producing it is so low. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything to do this except to sit here and, you know, just spout out my own ideas. The fact that cost of producing it so low, the cost of producing video is so low now between iPhones and your own edit and the ability to put it online, that if you can sell even a little bit of advertising, or in my opinion, transactions are really the way to go. We can do a whole separate section about how to make a living in terms of online stuff. But I think the access to putting stuff out there, as long as you keep the cost of production low, yes, I think you can make this into a living. I think you can make a living out of this thing. Of course, some people will shake down, some won't. Some people already do. Mark Egan says plenty of vloggers already making big money with their own channels. Well, there you go, Mark. I think that that's something, if they're making money, let's talk about how they're doing it. This is news to me, but God knows I'm always looking for new ways to make money. Sam Patterson says, you sound like a bit like the dog from Toy Story. Which was the dog? Oh, yeah, the Slinky dog. Really? You think so? Well, anyway, so that's basically all I had to talk about today. I'm going back to writing my book, but if you're interested in following up on this, and you should take a look at least their two things. I mean, a lot of other people do this, but these are two people that I know, and two people that I sort of launched. They were both students of mine. You can find contacts for them at thevj.com, which I hope you're all joining anyway. Do you think channels like TYT will ever be as credible as large networks? Yeah, I do think they will be as credible. In fact, I think they can be more credible because the problem with networks, and we talked about this last time, and I've written a lot about this in this new book that's coming out, which I hope you'll all buy as soon as I finish it, is that the interest of networks is in maximizing the number of viewers, and because that's how they sell their advertising. To maximize the number of viewers, they have to in some ways reach for the lowest common denominator in terms of content. And by doing that, they debase the intellectual content of the thing they're publishing. One of my favorite publications is the London Review of Books, and it's a fantastic publication. Stuff is brilliant, but has a very small readership. I love it. It doesn't mean everybody has to read it, but as long as you keep the price of production low, then the price of the product you're making low, then you can make the thing profitable. Mark, you just posted a link to something. I'll have to take a look at it. Can't click here. Paul Castillo. Hey, how's everything in Brazil, man? Good to talk to you, too. You see, I love this thing. And I have a fascinating time with this online streaming. I'm really enjoying this. I did a YouTube thing yesterday. I didn't like it as much as this. So I think I'm going to keep doing this. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. One thing I will say with you, yeah, Mark, agree with you, Michael, more money in having your, I agree, more money having your own platform than in selling content to other people. I absolutely agree with that. And that is absolutely the way to go. On next Wednesday, Lisa and I are going to be live streaming on thevj.com, and I would urge all of you to tune in and check that one out. And in the meantime, take a look at these new platforms that these people have just launched. I mean, I know there are tons of them, but I'm particularly attached to them since they're both students of mine and proteges. And I really believe this is the way to go. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, but thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you the next time I feel the urge for doing this. Bye.